How committed are you to mobile gaming? Do you need the latest specs with the most RAM possible, the best screen, active cooling, a dedicated controller, or do you just need a phone? If you want or need all of the bells and whistles, the Razer Edge Handheld might just be for you. Let's start with a question. How much are you willing to pay for the experience that I described? If you go out and buy a flagship Android phone plus a Razer Kishi V2, you're looking at probably a minimum of $700 to get that premium gaming experience. Now, that's assuming you go for a Pixel 7 at $599. If you want something more premium, the price goes up. Enter the Razer Edge, not to be confused with the old Razer Edge from years ago. This new handheld starts at $399 for the Wi-Fi model and $599 for the Verizon 5G model. Why would anyone want or need a $400 Android-based handheld? Well, that depends on what you play and where you play it. Cloud gaming? Check, we've got that. Android apps? Check. Fortnite? Yeah, we have that too. The Razer Edge is a one-stop shop for everything from console-quality cloud gaming to Angry Birds. Powering the device is the all-new Snapdragon G3X Gen 1 chipset and 6 GB of RAM. Now I'm going to pause right there. If you aren't aware of the controversy surrounding that whole setup, please refer to my previous video, which I will link in the description down below. Daily operation is super smooth, mostly thanks to an incredibly gorgeous 144 Hertz 6.8-inch 2400 by 1080 OLED panel. Now, unfortunately for that stunningly fast panel, the bezels surrounding it crawled straight out of 2014. But look, it's all about the screen here, and since Razer has those bezels, they did manage to squeeze in a 5-megapixel front-facing webcam, good for video chats and really nothing much else. Nobody's going to be shooting films on this thing. There's also no rear-facing camera, no built-in headphone jack to the device itself, and no front-facing speakers either. Would have been nice to see some front-facing speakers, especially on a design this bulky, but look, that's a dying trend that I just don't see coming back anytime soon. Now let's talk about that Razer Kishi flanking the sides. This is the Razer Kishi V2 Pro, so you do get a dedicated headphone jack on this part, just not on the unit itself. You also have a brand new haptic system, which I, for the life of me, cannot get to work no matter what I do, so until Razer fixes that, it's pretty much useless for me. If your experience is different, please let me know what I'm doing wrong. But here's where I want to make the clear line between a critical review and personal preference, is this point right here, and that is these buttons. I hate them because they will press down with the slightest feathery touch. I see myself accidentally pressing 2 to 3 buttons at the time, and despite what you say immediately, no, I don't have gigantic fingers. They're pretty normal. These buttons are just extremely sensitive and very clicky. Sensitive buttons aside, the rest of the Kishi V2 Pro is excellent. Excellent ergonomics, phenomenal triggers and shoulder buttons, and a sleek design that fits snugly into the Razer handheld itself. I'm not going to bother talking about the Edge disconnected from the Kishi because essentially it's a glorified Android phone without the phone, or a tiny tablet with awful bezels. Just know when you get the Razer Edge, it's meant to be used as the package deal. So let's talk about the final point, performance. With 6 gigs of RAM, I expect pretty decent performance, but what really needs to shine in this case is that Snapdragon G3X Gen 1. For cloud gaming, I'm going to be honest, this is overkill. Obviously, cloud gaming runs flawlessly on this thing. GeForce Now, Amazon Luna, Xbox Cloud Gaming, and the rest of the crowd runs perfectly. Where the Edge really starts to disappoint, and I really didn't expect this, is the native gaming performance. First of all, listen to these fans. Yeah, very loud active cooling. It's loud enough to be annoying, but it's not quite loud enough to be a major distraction, if that makes sense. Frame rates are smooth enough, but for a brand new gaming-centric chipset from Snapdragon, I would have expected less stutters, especially in older games, like Minecraft. I get a lot of stutters on there, and I've tested this on a Pixel 7, an iPhone 14, a Nothing Phone 1, and the Razer Edge, and for some reason, the Razer Edge seems to always just skip a beat with these. I'm not really sure what it is, but on almost every level I've played, I would get these micro stutters all the way through the experience. But now let's talk about some final odds and ends. THX is great. It makes the soundscape really open up. The Razer Nexus app is useless right now. The launcher is ugly and the haptics still aren't working for me. There's no bloatware. That's great. The panel itself, I cannot stress this enough, is incredibly colorful, incredibly fluid, and looks wonderful. The overall construction of the device is top-notch. This feels like a Generation 2 or 3 product from just an outside hardware perspective. And the Kishi V2 looks suspiciously like a Backbone 1. I don't know how they got away with that. So where does this put the overall experience? Well, again, that depends on what you find value in. If you want a dedicated device to game on so you don't have to worry about filling your phone up with games, this might be the right purchase. If you're really only into cloud gaming though, I would maybe recommend the Logitech G Cloud. It's currently $299. That's $100 less than the Razer Edge, and it has a bigger screen and larger console controller sized buttons. They're not as clicky, and you get full-size thumbsticks on that one. But if you're looking for a device that will do cloud gaming, plus native Android gaming, and give you the best screen possible on one of these handhelds, the Razer Edge is certainly a fine choice. But honestly, I would still wait for a sale before taking the plunge. The processor and RAM debacle, the uneven performance, the very hit and miss battery life, which seems to have a really bad standby battery drain, plus the finicky Kishi V2 make for a very hard sell at $400. But for $299, maybe $350, now that would give it an edge over the competition.